and welcome back to Face to Face, where I get to spend a little more time than usual with some of the most interesting people that we get to work with as professional speakers. Today, this is not an exception. One of the most fascinating speakers I've ever met, and we met at TEDx in Soweto. How many years ago, Pierre Du Plessis?
Oh my word, I think that was 2014. Was that 6 years ago? Sure. Feels like a lifetime.
2014, and now you're probably better known as speaker, crazy person, quasi-philosopher, but always fascinating. I always love what you have to say and what your thoughts are. So what are you thinking in this crazy time we're all living through?
In this crazy time we're all living through, I've been thinking quite a bit. Lately, I was reading Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, as one does, some light bedtime reading. And in the introduction, which is like the easiest part of the book to read, it says he spent the latter part of his life writing and thinking. And I thought, that's such a cool life, writing and thinking. So that's what I want to do, writing and thinking. So I've been thinking quite a bit about this crazy time, obviously, that we're in, and thinking, what does it mean? What does it present to us? And like, above all, my question always is like, how do we respond to it? Because we can easily, as human beings, we sort of get stuck in the whys. Like, why does it happen? Why is this pandemic here? Why is this virus here? What's the cause of it? Why is the government doing what it's doing? Why this? Why that? Why that? And we get into this spiral and we go nuts. And it drives us into this like fear and anxiety and like extreme depression and everything. And because in my opinion, I don't think there's an answer to why. Like, why is such a difficult question? And a better question, I think, to answer is what now? Or to ask is what now? Like, what are we supposed to do now? And how do we respond to what life is giving us? I was, obviously, I reread at the beginning of the lockdown, I reread Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which is, I think that's like mandatory reading for like every single human being ever. Like, if you're human, you should read that freaking book. Like, and it's like a thin little book, but it's great. And he says that life continually puts tasks before us. And often tasks can be anything like, how do you work well? You know, how do you parent well? How do you do this, do that well? And sometimes life puts a task in front of us. How do we suffer well? And so, and I think to a certain extent, like this pandemic or these crises that we're facing is placing a task in front of us. Like, how do we go through this well? And if we need to, how do we suffer well with dignity? I mean, he writes from like a Holocaust perspective, and we're nowhere near there. And that's, so I think when this pandemic is asking us, how do we respond? Like, what do we do with this task that it's putting in front of us? And I've just been thinking, like, human beings are what I love about the human race. I think there are many people now who think that the human race we aren't worthwhile saving, we aren't worthwhile caring for anymore because we make so many mistakes. But I'm still like, on, what's that one? I've forgotten the author's name now, but he says he's on team human, not team artificial intelligence or not team whatever, like team human. So I'm also still on like team human. I think humans are good in it.
I want to just go back a little step. What is the definition of suffering? Because suffering doesn't have to mean that you got the disease and that you're sick with it, or that you're asthmatic and you're battling to breathe, because you might have the symptoms of it. Suffering can mean anything. It can mean loneliness. It can mean separation from your friends or family. It can mean working alone. That's suffering if you're gregarious. So
yeah,
it's all suffering. That's all degrees of suffering, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we can suffer on many different levels. Obviously, physically, like being physically ill and physical pain, and emotionally, we can suffer. We can go into a state of fear and anxiety, and then mentally as well, we can suffer just from plain boredom. Boredom is like massively uncomfortable for human beings, because we are curious creatures, and we want to keep on moving forward. We want to build stuff. We want to create. And I think I've been speaking to quite a few people they're just bored. It's like and that can be a very severe form of the suffering, actually, to be bored and not having your mind stimulated at all. So, many different forms of suffering. I think suffering at its base is obviously something that's uncomfortable and something that you don't want and that you're trying to move away from all the time. I suppose that's what we're suffering.
I want to ask you now, because you're saying that we should never waste a crisis. So the presentation that you're giving, which is getting fantastic traction, is don't waste a crisis. What do you mean by that? What are you sharing with audiences when you present with that thought in the back of your mind?
Yeah, never let a good crisis go to waste. So it's a quote. It gets attributed to Winston Churchill, but he didn't actually say it. It's I think everything gets attributed to Winston Churchill, like either him or Einstein. It's ridiculous. But so it was actually Rahm Emanuel that tells a story during the 2008 Obama campaign. It's this maxim, it's a truism: never let a crisis go to waste. A crisis gives us opportunity to do things that we could not do before. And that's what Rahm Emanuel said, and what I very much agree with, because a crisis tends to break open the world as it was, and then as we see, it breaks it open and it shows us what is rotting, what can be changed, the way that we've been working never actually really worked, for example, and now we have a chance to change it. That's one way that a crisis gives us an opportunity. It shows the rot, it shows the structure underneath the old world or the old society. And then another way it gives us an opportunity is it forms community. And so it pushes people together really, really fast. And I think one of the big challenges that businesses have when I speak to them, that they're always struggling to build a very cohesive corporate culture, getting people to collaborate and work together. And now what's happening is this crisis is actually forcing people together. So all that you need to do as a business owner or a team leader is leverage that collaboration, that community that actually already exists in that space. So that's the two biggest things that a crisis gives us to actually create something we cannot do before.
How does a leader do that? I mean, if the potential was there, if all the people sat in their chairs before, so maybe the chair has changed, but is there a desperate understanding that if we don't make something work, nothing's going to work within a company, within a family, within anything?
Yeah, it's true. So if you can imagine if we use a different liminal space, I call it a liminal space, a different crisis as an example. If you have a group of people that go through an intense period of suffering, say for example, people that fight together in a war, fight together in a battle, that the suffering becomes the thing, the battle and the shared suffering becomes the thing that binds them together. So now all of a sudden, there's no more time for BS, there's no more time for pretense, there's no more time for kind of status games. We just have to fix this problem. We have to get through this, and we have to get through this alive. And that's the other thing that a crisis does is it flattens hierarchies. So and it takes away statuses. Well, all of a sudden we're all in the same boat. It doesn't matter how rich you are. You still have to wear a mask. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're the CEO or you're the janitor. We all experience the same. We're all experiencing the same pandemic and the same level of risk to some extent. And that helps. It breaks down those old hierarchies, those old rules, those old kind of power structures get broken down really quickly within a crisis. And that gives you opportunity to move. So if you have a team that's now forced together in this crisis, and it's building strong bonds, and now the old rules that have kept them from innovating are gone, it's all of a sudden they can move. It's we can do the stuff that we've always wanted to do, but we've never had the permission. Now we just want a solution, so we can go.
And also, I suppose the geographical isolation adds to those excuses, because now, well, nobody's watching that I'm working in my pajamas. I can actually make those phone calls, still get the job done. I know what it's about. It's about that common goal, though. Everyone has to realize that they have the common goal and then be freed to achieve it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And a crisis does that. I mean, I also often use examples from wrestling. My son's a wrestler, and there's just these really great nuggets in wrestling when they teach the kids and teach people to wrestle, for that matter. And one of them is forget the scoreboard, just wrestle. Like, stop looking at the scoreboard and just wrestle. And it's like, and there's another one also says, forget the rule book and just settle the issue. It's like, it's just fix this thing. So just get through this, just win this fight or this session. And like, that's exactly what a crisis does as well. It's like, we don't care about the dress code anymore. Like, who cares about the dress code? We care about surviving. We care about making, fixing this company, about getting this company through this. We don't care about the dress code or what the branding looks like on the bottom of the email. That doesn't matter anymore. Things that used to be huge fights are now kind of completely irrelevant. But it's the temptation often for businesses and for people is to like go back and circle the wagons and to just keep on doing things the way we did them before the crisis, because that used to work. Like, and if we can just do those things better and we just do them harder, then that'll save us. But it won't. It's like, there's a in a very kind of deep philosophical way, there's a death that needs to happen, like a death that you need to embrace, like a death of the old world and the way that we used to do things, so that we can actually move forward. And that's something that I think, especially when I speak to bigger organizations, that they struggle with, as I going that we don't want to let our old systems go because we spend so much time building them up, time and money building them up. But now, even though we realize they're not working anymore, we're kind of hoping maybe next week they will. And then maybe the week after that, they will. And now we're on day, 145 million. I can't even keep count anymore. And they're still not working. So you need to kind of let it go.
I think this has been so fascinating. I love talking to you. You've got me thinking about my own situation, and hopefully you've got lots of other people thinking about how they can change their situations. I mean, we're seeing it around us. There are those who are going to thrive when this is over, and there are those who will not be around because they weren't flexible enough. And I think they wasted a great crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Blessed are the flexible, for they will not be broken. That's what I keep on telling people.
Pierre Du Plessis, thank you so much for your time. Let's catch up again soon.
Awesome, Stuart. Thank you so much.